What if you weren't meant to come back? What if the cycle of life and death, the one you've believed in, prayed to, and been told is for your growth, isn't sacred at all, but a trap? For thousands of years we've been told, you return to learn. You reincarnate to evolve. But what if that was only part of the truth, and the rest has been hidden? Countless souls report a strange, familiar light after death. A presence, a voice, a pull. You're not done, it says. You must go back. And so, you do. But what if that light isn't what it seems? What if it's a false light? A system designed not to guide you, but to recycle you, to wipe your memory, to erase your awareness, to send you back into the density before you remember who you truly are. Over and over, lifetime after lifetime, pain, amnesia, karma, repeat. Some call it the soul trap, others call it the matrix. But what matters isn't what it's called. It's whether you're still caught in it. Because if you don't know the system exists, you'll never question it. And if you never question it, you'll never leave. So ask yourself, what if the light you're walking toward isn't the exit, but the loop? Part 1. The Reincarnation Cycle. Sacred or engineered? Reincarnation. To most people, it sounds like a gift, a second chance, a sacred opportunity to learn, to grow, to make things right. Religions across cultures teach us. You die. You review your life. You come back to try again. From Hinduism to Buddhism, from esoteric Christianity to tribal mysticism. The cycle of death and rebirth is seen as spiritual evolution. But what if that's only half the truth? What if the cycle isn't as holy as we've been told? What if something or someone hacked the system? Because some ancient teachings, once hidden, now resurfacing, paint a very different picture. The Gnostics, thousands of years ago, warned of archons, beings who trap souls in the material world. The Theosophists spoke of invisible architects who use illusion to keep humanity asleep. And in the Law of One, we are told this density is a realm of choice. But that many have become trapped here, caught in a loop they no longer remember choosing. Here's the pattern. You live a life full of challenges, make mistakes, experience pain, and then you die. You're drawn to a light. You're met by beings who tell you, it's time to go back. It's for your growth. You still have karma to clear. And then, your memory is wiped. Clean. Gone. No trace of who you were. No memory of the contracts you made. You're reborn into a new body. Into a family you didn't choose consciously, with wounds you don't understand, and lessons you don't remember signing up for. Sound familiar? Because that's the cycle, and it happens not once, but over and over again. Pain, amnesia, karma, repeat. But ask yourself, how can you learn the lesson if you don't remember the class? What kind of divine school deletes its students' memories every time they re-enter the classroom? That's not teaching, that's containment. And if you listen closely, you'll hear echoes from those who've seen behind the veil, near-death experiences, mystics, old souls. They speak of a moment after death. That feels familiar, repetitive, wrong. Some feel pulled toward the light, but others feel a jolt, a sense that this isn't freedom, but recycling. Could it be that the reincarnation cycle, as we know it, is not entirely natural, that it's been manipulated, engineered to keep souls looping through suffering and forgetfulness instead of liberation. Because if your soul forgets who it is, again and again, you'll never rise beyond this system. You'll remain a player in a game. You no longer realize you're playing. And that leads us to a deeper question. Who's running the game, and why keep you asleep? Part 2. The False Light Trap. Who's waiting after death? You die, there's a tunnel, there's a light, and then something calls to you. For centuries, people from every culture have reported strikingly similar experiences in near-death states. A bright, white light. A presence that feels familiar. A soft voice saying, "Come home." You might see a loved one, a spiritual guide, a being of light. You feel peace, relief, warmth, but then you're told you have more to do. It's not your time. You must go back. And just like that, you're pulled back into the body, into the density, back into the suffering you thought you'd finally escaped. But what if that light, that peaceful, glowing invitation, is not what it seems? What if it's a trap, a mechanism, designed to catch you in your most vulnerable moment? When your consciousness is unanchored, your identity is dissolving, and your defenses are down. What if the being who tells you, "You must go back," isn't a benevolent guide, but a handler of the soul cycle? Many ancient sources have hinted at this. The Gnostics warned of false lords of light that posed as divine, but fed off human suffering. The Tibetan Book of the Dead advises, if you see the light, do not cling to it. See it as illusion and keep moving inward. Modern experiences echo this. Some near-death survivors say they felt manipulated, that the light wasn't loving. It was magnetic, like a tractor beam, hard to resist, but wrong. And when they tried to ask questions, the beings grew impatient. When they wanted to remember, they were told, "That's not for you to know." Why? Because awareness breaks the system. If a soul remains conscious during transition, if it questions, if it resists, it might slip through the cracks, and that's the last thing this system wants. Because a soul that doesn't comply can't be recycled, it can't be wiped, it can't be reset. So it must be convinced, or coerced, or blinded by a false light that promises peace, but delivers amnesia. This doesn't mean every near-death experience is deception. Some lights are real, some guides are true, but not all. And when the difference means another life of suffering or liberation, discernment is everything. And in that space between lives, it will feel like home, like truth. But if you're not grounded in your own essence, you'll surrender. Not because you choose to, but because you forget you had a choice. And if you don't remember who you are, you won't recognize who's standing before you. So how do you tell the difference? How do you see clearly when you no longer have eyes? How do you resist illusion when you're nothing but pure consciousness? To answer that, we must go deeper, into the part of the system most souls never question, the deletion of memory, because the real prison is not death, it's forgetting. Part 3. Soul Amnesia. The real prison is forgetting. If reincarnation is real, then why don't you remember your past lives? Why don't you recall the faces, the choices, the karmic lessons that supposedly shaped your current existence? Why do we enter this world as if we've never been here before? The answer may be darker than you think. It's called soul amnesia, a deliberate wiping of memory at the point of reincarnation, According to ancient esoteric texts, this isn't a natural forgetting. It's a systemic deletion. You don't just forget your name. You forget your mission, your karma, your soul agreements, your blueprint. You forget who you are, and once that happens, you begin again, blind. You're handed a new identity, a new trauma, a new culture, a new illusion to believe in. You grow up thinking, this is me. This is my only life. This is all there is. But in truth, you're inside a loop. You can't see because the memory that would expose it is gone. It's like being dropped into a video game with no map, no instruction manual, and worst of all, no memory of the last time you played. Every time you die, your character gets reset. Same engine, same rules, but you don't remember how you failed before. So you make the same moves, fall into the same traps, repeat the same pain, lifetime after lifetime, and the system keeps running smoothly. Because you think it's your first time, but it's not. This isn't about fear, it's about clarity. Because a soul that remembers cannot be manipulated. A soul that remembers asks different questions, makes different choices, sees through the illusion. This is why ancient spiritual systems put so much focus on remembrance, not remembering facts, but remembering essence. Who you are, where you came from, why you came. Mystery schools, shamans, monks, they all knew the same truth. If you can pierce the veil, you break the cycle. Because if you remember the trap, you no longer walk into it willingly. So why is this memory erased? Some say it's for your protection, that remembering would overwhelm you, but others say it's to keep you controllable, because a conscious soul can no longer be recycled. And so we must ask, if your memories have been taken, can you still escape? If you're inside a game, one with rules, levels, and resets, can you learn to see the code? Because if you can see it, you can change it. And that brings us to the next revelation. There is a way out. But not through running, not through fighting, through hacking the frequency field that holds the illusion together. Are you ready to change the code? Part 4. Breaking the code. Conscious exit from the cycle. So how do you escape a cycle that's been running for lifetimes? How do you break free from a game that resets your memory every time you lose? The answer is ancient, and it begins with awareness at the moment of death. For thousands of years, spiritual masters across cultures have warned the moment of death is not the end. It's the test. The Tibetan Book of the Dead teaches that if you remain conscious in the bardo, the in-between state, you can bypass the illusions and merge with your true essence. The Egyptian Book of the Dead outlines step by step how to navigate the underworld, face the deceivers, and ascend without being recycled. These are not fairy tales. They are maps, codified instructions for souls who wish to break the loop. But here's the key. It only works if you're aware. Awareness is the doorway. If you die in fear, if you die in confusion, if you cling to identity, you'll be pulled back in. Because the cycle feeds on unconsciousness. This is why mystics trained for death while still alive. They practiced lucid dreaming, astral projection, deep states of meditation. To simulate death, to stay aware in altered states, so they'd recognize the illusions when the real moment came. This is the reason behind the famous phrase, echoed across countless spiritual circles, "Don't go into the light." Not because light is bad, but because not all light is truth. If you feel compelled, if the light drags you, if you're guilted, manipulated, or rushed, Pause. Ask, is this my choice? Is this aligned with freedom, or just another round? Because some lights are just filters, portals, entry points back into the loop. The real freedom doesn't come from external guidance. It comes from inner sovereignty, and that's what the ancient texts tried to teach. Remain conscious. Retain your will, resist false comfort, and remember who you are. Because when a soul dies in awareness, it becomes untouchable. It can say no. It can bypass the false programs. It can reject the karmic manipulation. It can hold its vibration long enough to rise beyond the trap. But awareness alone isn't enough. You also need the right frequency. Because if your energy still resonates with guilt, fear, or attachment, you might be conscious, but still pulled back in. And that leads us to the final key: vibration. Because you don't escape the cycle by running. You escape it by outgrowing it. And that happens through frequency. Part 5. Freedom through frequency, escaping by vibration. The trap isn't physical, it's vibrational. It doesn't lock you in with chains, it locks you in with resonance. This cycle, this reincarnation loop, can only hold what it can match, and it only matches what you emit. You see, the matrix doesn't chase you. It doesn't need to. It simply waits for your energy to echo back the same signals: fear, anger, guilt, grief. And when it hears those notes, it knows. You're still in tune with the system, because this isn't just a soul trap. It's a frequency field. And the moment you shift your vibration, you step outside its reach. Not because you broke the rules, but because you changed the frequency the rules operate on. This is what the ancient masters knew, that freedom is not about escape. It's about transformation. When you forgive, you collapse karma. When you let go of identity, you silence the ego's attachment to the game. When you remember your true nature, you exit the bandwidth of suffering completely. The system cannot contain what it cannot resonate with. Think of it like tuning forks. If your energy no longer vibrates at the system's frequency, you stop being visible to it. You phase out of the grid. You graduate. Because true liberation is not about fighting the illusion. It's about outgrowing it. That's why the trap isn't reinforced with violence. It's reinforced with emotion. It convinces you to feel unworthy, to feel lost, to feel like you still owe a debt you never agreed to pay. But what happens when you stop feeling small? What happens when your frequency becomes truth, love, forgiveness, sovereignty? You become uncatchable. You begin to emit a signal, not of submission, but of awakening. You stop broadcasting, "Teach me again," and start vibrating, "I remember now." And in that vibration, no light can deceive you. No voice can compel you. No karma can hold you hostage, because you're no longer here to repeat. You're here to complete. And once that energy stabilizes, you rise beyond the reach of the system, not by running from it, but by becoming greater than it. Picture it. You die. The tunnel appears. The light glows. But this time, your soul stands still. No fear, no confusion, just presence. And as the light beckons, you remember the truth. You are the light. So instead of stepping forward, you turn around, and behind you opens a field of infinite space. Unfiltered, unprogrammed, free, and your soul walks. Not rushed, not afraid, but consciously out of the loop and into the real. Because in the end, the question was never, will you follow the light? It was always, Will you finally become it? Final CTA. If reincarnation is a trap, then awakening is the only escape. Not by running, but by remembering who you are. Subscribe now. And break the cycle from within, because this isn't the end. It's the beginning of something far deeper. In the next episode, we'll decode one of the most mysterious spiritual texts in history, the Egyptian Book of the Dead. What secrets did the ancients leave us about the afterlife, and how to navigate it? The answers may change everything you thought you knew about death.